Thank you, everybody, for joining me for Worth It Empowerment TV. I am your host, LaQuanda McCoullum. And guess what, y'all? This is our very first episode, and I could not be more happy about you guys joining us. We have a great show for you. This whole month, our jump off, our start off month, or we are talking about don't be desperate. Now, we came up with this topic because I was sitting around, I was talking to one of my close friends. Her name is Keisha, my sister, of Unique Boutique. And we were just talking about all the different things that we've done in relationships out of desperation. And she was like, you know what? I think I'm going to write a book called Don't Be Desperate. And I said, you know what? That is a great book. But while you still inking a pen, can we call my first show topic Don't Be Desperate? Because there is so many ways that I felt myself desperate. It doesn't make any sense. And so many ways that I've got out of it. So we wanted to share that. I have a great guest. Her name is Tycahe, Pastor Tycahe. She's in the house. We're going to talk about a little bit of our experiences. And I just want you to let you know how we're going to start our show and what we include. Each week, you're going to get a word of the week. And then we'll go into our next segment, which may be Girl, You Did That, or Testify. We'll talk to our guests. We'll do a fun thing that I like to call Is It Worth It? And then we have a great time. And then we invite you back for the next week. So I hope you love this show. We're going to laugh. We're going to be empowered. We're going to be encouraged. And we're going to be inspired to live like we are worth it. So let me jump into my word of the week, which for this week, the word is recovery. And recovery was such a powerful word for me because I feel like I spent my whole life in the recovery process. And people think if you're recovering, you should be feeling better because you were sick and now you're getting, but listen, recovery is painful. I found out that recovering was almost, if not even worse and harder than the thing that had me sick or bound or whatever the case may be. And it was painful because I had to learn that who I was when I was recovering. All that time, I turned into a response of what I experienced. I wasn't even myself. I was just a response to all the life things that I've been experiencing. And then when I got out of that, I was still being that person, that response, that survivor that I was. And my life at the moment, since I was outside of that situation, didn't require me to be the survival person anymore because I wasn't in that situation, but I did not know how to live outside of it. So the process of recovery began with me being deconstructed, getting all the hardness and all that survival off of me. So then I could be who I was supposed to be when I entered the place that God promised for me. And it's not easy, but I want to challenge you to stay in recovery so that you can be who God intended you to be before the pain, before the hurt, before the experiences, so that you can enter the space that he promised you, like the children of Israel. And you don't want to be a survival person and then you mess up the promise because you're not fully recovered. So I hope that encouraged you, and I hope that you are ready to walk into this journey of recovery. But for now, we're going to get into our next segment, which is testify. And we're going to tell about the goodness of the Lord. So testify.
Hello, everyone. I just want to testify about the goodness of God and what He has done for me. I have a million testimonies, but I'm going to be short and brief. Give it as one testimony. Before I rededicated my life to Christ, I was into New Age practices. And for many of you that don't know what New Age practice is, it's basically witchcraft. And I almost felt myself spiraling down into a deep, very, very, very dark place. And God came and like literally rescued me out. I was fighting my children. I have teenage children. We were fighting. I was not like a good mom, like as far as caring about the needs of my children. God has completely changed my entire household. He has made my children whole. He has blessed them as well as He has blessed me financially and just wholeheartedly all around. My heart is changed. My character is changed. God delivered me from me. God delivered me from me, literally me from me. And I cannot thank him enough. Like, I cannot thank him enough. Like, I was living with people my whole entire adult life. Now I have a home of my own, and it's very beautiful, like a very, very beautiful home. And I have nobody to thank but God. Thank you for your grace. Thank you. I could go on and on and on. So I'm gonna just leave this here. Y'all be blessed.
See, she had me. Listen, where's the organist at? Tune it
Right,
up,
right,
okay?
right.
Because she said he delivered me
Yes,
from me.
from me
Have you ever had to be delivered from yourself?
every day.
Every day.
I gotta be delivered all the time.
All the time. Well, let me tell you something. I really thank God for His grace and His mercies that are new every day.
Yes,
Because, like we already talked about it, recovering and all that is a lifelong
yes, it
process,
is.
right? So I need Him to deliver me from me
Right,
all the time,
right, right,
right?
right.
All the time.
All the time.
So Tasha, let me just introduce because I got so caught up in the testimony.
Yes,
I need to let
awesome.
the folks know who's here with me.
Oh Lord.
Okay, so Pastor Tasha, I can't say enough about her. She's a very wise woman, my big sister, and who I go to when I need advice about life changing, life altering, get me off of the bridge,
Yes.
stop me from tying the knot, tell me to put the knife down,
Right,
put the pillow.
right.
This is who I go to for that. So I wanted her to be able to share some of her experiences. And we did a live show before. And so I want to take one of your clips out
Mhm.
from the live show, but I want to tell people a little bit about yourself a little bit more before we get into it.
I'll tell you, it's always hard to talk about yourself, but here you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
I am Tasha. My family calls me Tasha, but of course I'm Tasha. But I'm the pastor, assistant pastor of Holy Temple Holiness Church, and of course I am this woman's cousin, and I love her, and I'm here to help support.
Yes, yes. And so before we get into the clip, I want to ask you this one thing.
Okay.
What is something you would have done or not done if you knew your worth?
I would not have, and I guess it's okay if we talk about the whole marriage thing.
Oh, yeah.
I definitely would not have entered into marriage if
Mm.
I knew my worth.
Oh, that's good. That's a great segue.
Right.
Okay. So thank you for saying that. And producer extraordinaire, can you run that clip?
Marriage is something, it's a humdinger. If you don't do it right, it's a downward spiral. It's like a snowball that starts small at the top of a hill, and as it goes, it's going to get bigger and bigger. And I made a desperate mistake when I got married.
Mm.
It was definitely out of desperation, and it was something in my head. I don't know, like just growing up in church, and a lot of times we think that it's something that we should do or something we should be doing, and that's not always the case because it might not be your time to do that. But again, you just do it because you think, well, why not? And I always say, if you gotta say why not to something, then don't do it. Because why not is not the answer for it. So in my life, when I got married, that definitely was a desperate situation for me because it's not that my guy was a bad person. He wasn't a bad person. He did bad things, of course, during the course of the marriage, but generally he wasn't a bad person. But he wasn't my person. So it made everything horrible. And I chose that situation because I didn't think anything of myself. I thought this was my only option. So because I thought it was my only option, I went for it. And then this person could not cover me. It was impossible. So it was why I wound up doing the covering. Now I'm out of place. So it's like the desperation was I didn't think anything of myself.
Yeah.
I thought that was all I can accomplish and all I can get. And I went for it. Matter of fact, I pretty much made it happen.
So what can I say? I've been there, done that.
Right.
Will never
You're right. Never.
do it again. But you know what's so funny about that though is that I thank God for growth because some people keep re-entering the same situations
Right.
and they never grow.
No.
They never know. But I thank God for allowing us to end these cycles.
Right.
Right. So one of the questions that was left over on there, and I'll just jump right into it because we already talked and you already said that that's you wouldn't have gotten married if you knew your worth.
Right.
How many times, or can you respond to how you felt about you, or the times you enter a place because you didn't value you?
Well, I think a lot of times when you don't value you, you always settle.
Mm,
And just like you're gonna have to help keep me on track. But even like we was just talking about processing, if you cannot fully process if you never see yourself.
mm,
So if it's always somebody else's fault, then you're never going to fully process. So in that sense, if you can't fully process and you never see yourself, you're going to always choose the bad crab.
mm.
You're never going to choose something that is good because you don't think you're worthy of it.
Wow.
And it doesn't matter who's around you and who's saying anything. You have to know, you have to realize that you're worthy of the good thing.
That you're worthy of the good thing. And I thought that first of all, that is so important and it's so key. But one of the things also that I appreciate about that and having the adult conversation is that I know I've been here
Mm-hmm.
where the blame was always on somebody else. It was always somebody else's fault. It was always, well, this is his fault. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't do this. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't do that. And I was never in a space where I took ownership of my own actions.
That's right.
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 And so I think even the fact that you said that, were able to say and identify that you didn't value yourself, it just made me understand how much more I respect you as a woman because you were able to identify, hey, this my decision making had really nothing to do with him.
No.
It had everything to do with how I felt, right?
Right. Right.
And so I want you to dig a little bit because I want to help somebody who may be making these same decisions unaware because they're scared to face themselves. How did you feel about yourself?
I think it was on so many levels
Mm-hmm.
because I never thought I was smart enough.
Mm,
So I never thought that I could accomplish anything on my own. So I said, well, maybe if I get someone that has potential, that
mm,
I can develop that potential and I can get what I need from that person.
mm,
So just far as we just come up in the time where everybody, all my friends, all our family, we was all getting married.
mm-hmm.
And so it's like, all right, so what are you going to do?
Right.
So I just basically jumped on that bandwagon and I found a way, what you say, I found a way out.
Mm-hmm.
And I chose to marry someone that was not equipped for me. One thing about women, we grow a lot.
We do.
Who we are right now is not who we're going to be tomorrow.
Woo!
So because of that, we have to make sure that our mate is able to umbrella us. We
Mm,
have to be able to fit underneath that umbrella. If that umbrella is this big and you this big right now, 2 years from now, you're going to outgrow that. And most men don't really grow that much. Who
mm.
they are is who they are. And I'm not knocking men.
Right.
I'm
We're
not,
not
not
knocking. We
I'm
love
not
men.
knocking men.
Okay.
I'm not knocking men. But most of the time, they give you their representative is there up front.
Mm-hmm.
Ours is not always up there
Mm,
because we are growing so much. We don't know exactly who we are. And so if we reach for that right there, it's not going to fit us.
mm.
And then if we don't have a spouse that's willing to help us grow or grow with us, then we're going to have a problem.
We're going to have a problem, and that is so 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 true. And so that brings it. So okay, so you said something. You said, and I want to touch on this because you said you didn't feel smart enough.
No.
So you didn't feel like there were certain things. So would you say that when you got in this relationship, was that like covering up for the lack
Yes.
of okay, okay. So by doing that, did you feel like you had to be smarter now, or that marriage was another like armor you can put on your belt? Well, I'm married. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right. It definitely was another armor,
Hmm.
and it's horrible,
Or
but it
metal? Yeah.
it it, it really was. Um, but yeah, I didn't think I was smart enough. But here's the thing, I was smart enough because I did. I took
Right.
this person and turned him into exactly what I wanted him to be. I took his credit and made it better. I
Oh,
took it to we was able to purchase a house. We was able to do everything that I wanted to do. And it's not because he wanted to do it. It's because I created it. I made it happen.
but you weren't able to do that for yourself
But I would
at
not do
the
it.
time.
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh. And how many times did they say it in church where you have faith for everybody else except you?
Yeah.
And that strictly points down and directly connects to your own worth and value.
That's right.
We don't believe enough in ourselves
No.
to be able to produce on our own. And I'll add to that because there were certain times when I was married and things like that where I didn't feel fulfilled, I didn't feel adequate because I didn't at the time I didn't have a formal education,
Right. Right.
and I thought that well at least I'm married.
Right.
You know what I mean? Well at
Right.
least I had that.
Right.
I married. That was such the huge accomplishment, and it is an accomplishment. I'm not
It
trying
is.
to minimize that,
Right.
but I knew it becomes something when I knew I was supposed to do more,
Right.
and that's where it became so conflicting, and that's why I felt so undervalued and worthless
Right.
because on one side of my mind I felt like I was supposed to climb Mount Rushmore. I
Hmm.
felt like I was supposed to do that. I felt I was supposed to do the big thing, but I didn't believe in myself to do it. However,
Mm.
the feeling of having to climb Mount Rushmore
Right.
didn't change because I didn't believe in myself.
That's
The
right.
feeling was still there, but I just didn't believe it. But that feeling made my worthlessness, that feeling of worthlessness, grow so much.
Hmm.
And I tried to hide my worthlessness in the idea that I was married.
Right.
Hmm.
Yep. Yeah.
Is that
We
how you felt?
definitely do. I think we definitely hide ourselves.
Hide ourselves. And
Yes.
we'll come right back after
Right.
this quick commercial break. So, what is the one thing that if you didn't have it, you could potentially lose every asset you ever had or not pursue everything you felt you deserved? Your worth and value. Hi, I'm LaQuanda McCoullum, worth advocate, author, and host of the Worth It TV Empowerment Series. And guess what? I am so grateful to introduce you to the Worth It Academy. Part of my life purpose is to speak to people in a worthless space and to inspire and empower them to live like they are worth it. Why? Because I know firsthand what it feels like to lose absolutely everything because I didn't understand the investment God made when He made me. And I also know what it feels like to not pursue things because I didn't feel I deserved it. But I also know what it feels like to reclaim my worth and to get up and go get everything that God said was mine. And I want to share those tools with you inside of the Worth It Academy because your dreams are worth it. And I know that once you rediscover your worth, you will be positioned to get up and go get everything that belongs to you. Join us today inside of the Worth It Academy. So thank you for coming back. And I wanted to ask you how, so you're not married anymore, is that right?
Right.
Right. I'm not married anymore either. But and I guess we got to figure that out. But how long were you married?
Well, I would be married 20 years in April.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So I was married, I want to say at least 13 years.
13, wow. And I was married for 19 years.
Right.
For 19 years. And I will say this too. Unfortunately, we both ended up in divorce. I
Hmm.
want to just throw this out there. When you get married, potentially, when you get married, or if you get married and you're trying to um, get married for the wrong reason,
Right.
you're not really in it for the love. You're in it to try to hide from your own worthlessness. It really doesn't work out.
It does not work.
And we're your examples to prove that. So I definitely wanted to just take a moment to encourage the men and women out there. Please do not get married because you're trying to run from yourself. You're trying to run from your inadequacies. It doesn't work. It leads to divorce, right? And a lot of people don't have to do that. Like maybe for me, if I would have got counseling before
Right.
marriage, because my mom just passed away. My ex-husband, he had his own trauma. If we dealt with that trauma first,
Right.
if counseling was a thing, because y'all know it wasn't a
It
thing
wasn't a
back
thing.
then, right? Maybe things would have went differently. But I just wanted to encourage anybody who's embarking upon marriage. Don't do it because you're running from yourself. Don't do it for those reasons. Do it because you really love that person, and you have an idea of what your inadequacies and all those things are.
That's
But
right.
I wanted to ask you, since you're divorced, how have you grown in your worth?
I would say that I have grown in my worth because I realize who I am.
Mm,
And a lot of that, all of it comes from knowing who I am in God.
okay.
Because as I take time to allow God to reveal Himself to me and walk in faith, I was able to, know who I was,
Let
who
me
I
ask you a
am.
question. Who are you?
I'm a child of God.
Okay.
I'm a royal priesthood.
Uh-huh.
I
Now,
walk in authority.
when you address yourself to people, like if you had to walk down the street to somebody, what else does he say? What else do you say? They have the scripture in the Bible. Okay, I hear what the men are saying, but what
Right.
do you say?
I would say that I'm worth it.
Oh, okay. Okay, there we go. There
I
we
would say that I
go.
am worth it. I am worth whatever I'm trying to accomplish or whatever I'm trying to be. I'm just worth it. I can do whatever I put my mind to do if it be in the will of God. And if
Right.
it's not His will, He's not gonna let it go. And if you
Right.
do, it doesn't feel right. It don't fit.
Mhm.
So whatever He says that I can do, and I don't have to hide behind anyone else.
Woo,
All
that's
I have
it.
to do is, and a lot of times too, we don't have faith enough to walk out what God has for us. So
Right.
again, we pull other people along or we get on other people's bandwagon so we can, um, just like you said, accomplish something. But God is not really calling us to do that. And that's not trusting Him.
It's
Because
not.
if we was trusting Him, we wouldn't have to hide behind anybody else.
Oh, I want to say this. I want to point out Moses.
Hmm.
Moses,
Yes.
when in the Bible, there's it talks about Moses, and Moses had to help the children of Israel exit
Right.
from out of Egypt,
Hmm.
and he didn't want to talk.
He didn't want to talk.
He was afraid to talk.
Right.
For some reason, God always chooses these dynamic people who have these little inadequacies that kind of forces them or tries to force them out of their purpose. They don't really understand
Right.
how powerful they are outside of that small space
Hmm.
of unworthiness or inadequacy
Right.
or undervalue. So anyway, Moses didn't want to talk, right? But God didn't care
No, He did
about that.
not care.
God cared nothing. Moses cared more about his flaws or his undervaluing and his worthlessness than God did. And I'll tell you how I know that. Ask me how I know.
How do you know?
Because God chose him.
Yes, He
God
did.
chose him.
Yep.
God chose him from a baby.
Yes.
He was shipped out in the water as a child. God knew then what he wanted him to be, even though he also knew
Hmm.
that he would have a problem with his speech.
Right.
So it just lets me know that the things that we get so hung up on, God doesn't care about. He still wants us to be dynamic. He still wants us to be great. He still wants us to represent him well and
That's
represent
right.
what he called us to
That's
do
right.
well. So, what would you tell somebody who struggled in the area of their worth and desperation as well? What would you tell them to help pull them out of that space?
I would tell somebody definitely you have to have a relationship with God.
Mm,
If you do not have a relationship with God, you're going to fall into so many traps, so many pitfalls. And it's not to say that when you have your relationship with God, you're not going to have problems. You will, because we have to be developed. But when God is your center and He is the person that you're calling on and looking to, it's easier to come out.
mm.
It's easier to feel comfort and it's easier to feel love. And then you don't have all these people committing suicide and all these different things like that because they have a base.
Mm.
And our
A firm
ground, our
foundation.
foundation has to be Christ. It just has to be. And like being married, we tried to make our foundation our husbands, and it was never the
Ooh.
will of God for that. And we put them in a bad situation because putting them in the place of God, and they never should have been that place. And it's not intentionally, but we did it. And but if a person would know who they are in God and lean on that, they are able to go through the trials of life
and not be
desperate.
Right. And so thank you so much for sharing that. That was powerful. We could go on.
Yes,
I'll have to bring you back for another show.
Lord.
But for now, it's something I always like to do with my guests. It's a little game because I like to laugh.
Yes.
And it's called, Is It Worth It? You saw that clip. Okay, so that was my producer, Alicia Dominique. She's an actress, producer, director, writer. You can watch her from Traffickers on Amazon Prime and Tubi at any time. Traffickers, she's amazing. But anyway, we were trying to, get all the items and stuff that we needed for the show. And we went to Five and Below, and we were looking for mugs at the last minute. We couldn't find them. Five and Below had these mugs, and they had these mug covers, right? And these mug covers were something that we needed. And we contemplated taking the mug covers off of the mugs because we figured somebody already took one off. They're not going to miss it. But then we asked ourselves, is it worth it? And we didn't steal them. We didn't steal them. We decided they weren't worth it, and we made our own. so that would it have been worth it?
No, it's not worth it.
Okay. So for our next one, we have our side. Okay.
All right.
So this is how we do it. The next clips, we're going to decide if it's worth it. We're going to say worth it. If it's not, we're going to say it's not worth it. Can we get that next clip? All right. And so this one is saying, all right, so if ignoring your friend, stop being friends with somebody.
Right.
Or ignoring your friend because they have a new relationship. Is it worth it?
No.
Why? It's not. But I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna tell y'all, ladies, we saying this for a reason. It's not worth it because I had friends that do that.
Right, and it's horrible.
It's hard to act like they never knew me. I'm going through the time of my life. I need a shoulder to lean on, but they can't pick up the phone at all. Not even at work. None of the above.
No.
It's not work because listen, come or go, whether that man is there or not, I'm gonna be there for you.
He's gonna go.
What was our last one is the woman. Play that clip, please. Bring that clip up. Okay. Running your car into the Popeyes because they left your 4 biscuits. Is it worth it? No, it's not worth it. Please say keep your insurance low. Right? If it was Red Lobster biscuits, maybe I would have done it. But I'm not running my car into the store for Popeyes biscuits. It's not worth it. It's not. Thank you. Or maybe even what's another place that got good biscuits?
It's not worth it.
Texas Roadhouse. I heard their honey butter is maybe worth it, but it's not worth it. Listen, thank you for joining us on our show. Thank you, Pastor Tasha, Big Sis Cousin, all those different kinds of things. Thank you for joining us. I have to bring you back again. We so appreciate you for joining us today. I hope that you receive something for the show. Come back, y'all. Y'all come back next week. Okay? Come back. You hear?
Ministry leaders. Have you ever considered growing your ministry with television? Well, the Daily Gospel Network could be what you've been looking for.